Don't see any. No. Okay, so I'll just move on then. Item 1, minutes of the previous meeting on the 17th of November. Can we agree the minutes?
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Okay, so I'll move on to item 2, which is the Clyde Muirshiel Tourism Action Plan. We've got Andrew McKean here, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Yep. Hiya. I'll hand over to you, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Councillor. So, hello everyone. I've met some of you, but by no means all. Delighted to be here. I'm the tourism officer for the council, but I also work very closely with all the Scottish local authorities in a tourism capacity. We have a tourism network, so that will allow me to, if you ask any questions, kind of bring in that kind of benchmarking, I suppose, aspect. What I'm going to do is share my screen if the technology allows me, but I will not go through every slide in detail because you've had a very long day. Let me just see if I can track it down. So the first question is, can you see that?
Yep, looking good.
Fantastic. So let's take you to the start. It's the best place. So again, thank you very much. Stuart Graham very kindly, I think, sent you an email last week or the week before about a public forum that we undertook last week, last Thursday at Castle Semple's Visitor Centre. Some of you may have come along, which was fantastic. What I would say is we have an online forum which is has exactly the same information we had last Thursday, and in fact has these boards. That's open for another 3.5 weeks until 23rd of March. So what I'll do afterwards is not only share this, but I can share the link as well if you want to go on and have a look and add your own ideas and thoughts. So what we're looking at is really aspirations, ambitions, and opportunities around what we could do with Castle Semple and its wider area. It's not just focused on Castle Semple itself. What I would say right at the outset is that from a visitor point of view, everything that I'm looking at in terms of developing visitor experiences is also for residents. It's not an either or approach by any stretch. We're very, very aware that Castle Semple is used a huge amount by locals, and that isn't going to stop, and that is absolutely not the plan. But it's to kind of help developing so that everyone has a really positive experience. And the opportunities around tourism in terms of bringing people from further afield into the local areas, which means they either stay or they spend more in kind of our villages or towns. So it's trying to bring in that holistic viewpoint. And this has very much been kicked off from a tourism point of view, probably in the last few months for a number of reasons. Towards the end, autumn last year, we supported RSPB in successfully getting some funding through Visit Scotland for some, through their Rural Tourism Infrastructure Fund, which is always a mouthful. And they are looking at developing a boardwalk out to the medieval tower they have on their site. So if you know it, you can if you really, really tried, you could probably get there at the moment, but they're putting in a boardwalk in 2 stages from both sides so that it will create a circular route. That's their kind of longer term plan. The first part of that boardwalk, which is there and back, should be up and running well before the summer season. So I'm sure that, you know, as that gets towards completion, then I'll come back or get them to come back and talk to you as well. But we did that. We also applied to the Visit Scotland Fund to look at some infrastructure improvements that we could be done around Castle Semple Visitor Centre itself, on the understanding that it is something that would absolutely need investment. It hasn't had any for some time. And then the third aspect is our Renfrewshire visitor plan has come to a natural end, so we're refreshing our strategic tourism plan. So, and the outdoors is very much a part of that. So all of those kind of came together, and we looked at the infrastructure elements, and we thought, rather than just focus on very short term, why don't we look at potential for a longer term opportunity, and really a really long, and as in a 5 to 10 year, all sorts of aspects, and create a bookend really with all the investment that's gone into Paisley and the cultural landscape there, but looking at our rural area. And as I said, the investment is not about specifically Castle Semple Visitor Centre, it's that wider footprint and how we have a positive impact on that. I'm not going to, as I said, I'm not going to run through these in a huge amount of detail. There's a lot of information on there. You've had it's been a difficult day and a long one, but this is just reinforcing the fact that, you know, between the urban aspects or the urban lifestyle tourism, the cultural investment, you know, we have our Down Hall and museum kind of reopening imminently. So what we think is a huge opportunity is around outdoor activities. And some of that is borne out by research that Visit Scotland has done, in terms of, we also, because of the pandemic, a much greater value placed on outdoor spaces, green and blue spaces, and that trend is not going to change anytime soon. It's very much continuing and growing, and it's becoming a much wider trend because you're bringing in the green agenda and focus on the environment, but also aspects like net zero, you know, and there are elements about health and well-being that are not at all tourism related, but nonetheless all play into this development. In terms of looking at the opportunities and challenge, we kind of pulled out some here, and you'll see it's kind of asking questions at the bottom, and that is because this is a public set of, it's not a formal consultation because that implies a very formal plan that's already been developed. We're a stage before that, but we are asking questions in terms of, you know, what do you as users of the park and its facilities in the wider area, or people who live there or have businesses there, what would you like to see happen? You know, what do you think the opportunities and challenges are? So we've come up with these. We're looking at you know, a tourism infrastructure plan. It is just starting. National targets in terms of bringing in, you know, not only communities, but also looking at the value of outdoor spaces. Day visitors, the city region is a huge urban conurbation, as I have no doubt you know, but that's an opportunity for us to bring more people from that city region to our area, but we want to do it in a responsible way, so we're not suddenly flooded with people. Nevertheless, I don't think we get anywhere enough people compared to the value of what we have. I think we have a hugely, I'm not going to say undersold because we've been marketing it quite heavily, but it's an area that can do a lot in terms of growth and visitor growth, and now hopefully will have knock-on benefits. It's got a lot of potential. It is, and again, like I mentioned earlier, in terms of, it's not just a visitor facility. It has Castle Semple has a huge amount of outdoor activities with all sorts of groups. It's a nationally recognized centre of excellence for accessible water sports. It was a disability cycling hub with Cycling Scotland. And on top of that, if we're looking at the wider area, we've got the RSPB as well, who do a lot of work with volunteers. You know, so there's a lot of conservation aspects in there that probably I would not normally come into a tourism project, but I think this is what I was saying about this being a much broader one. Sorry, was there a question? No, I'll just skip through that. In terms of some of the challenges, obviously, you know, it's a complicated site. Even the Castle Semple site itself is quite complex in terms of its layout, a number of aspects of work around in terms of areas of special scientific interests, different landowners, different partners. But I think what everyone wants is kind of really enhance that experience and have a clear offer. The final bit of the opportunity and challenge is about funding. This is not a project that we have identified clear funding for. We're working on the basis that because governments, both Scottish and UK, are talking a lot more about healthy and well-being health communities, we've looked at what's happened with past projects, and we think there's going to be kind of funding on the horizon at some point, so we need to get this ready for that to happen. Looking at other benchmarking then, in terms of, you'll all know the Kelpies. Kelpies actually took quite a long time in terms of development, quite a number of years, quite a number of different funding pots as well. But what it did do is it took a very much brownfield site and turned it into a big attraction, but its focus wasn't tourism, it was regeneration. And there it's working towards a local audience as much as an incoming one. But it did require 40+ million pounds across its lifespan, and is continually looking for further investment in terms of infrastructure. Closer to home, East Renfrewshire and their Dams to Darnley project, which you may well know a fair amount about, which has had funding through the city deal. But again, of a 40 million project, probably about 20 million of that is visitor-facing facilities. Strathclyde Park, a very, very ambitious plan of development, reportedly in the kind of 50+ million bracket. But again, that's not just visitor-facing facilities, it's everything, including, say, aspects like carbon capture. Nevertheless, both Dams to Darnley and Strathclyde Country Park are investing in those facilities that will bring people in. So I think one of the things we need to be very conscious of is that city region audience is going to have a lot of, we're going to have a lot of competition for that. So we really need to be kind of pulling our heatstrings up, as it were. When I mentioned about it not just being Castle Semple, what we've done here is try to pull in what a wider impact might look like in terms of, you have Castle Semple, but you've also got Loch Village, we've got RSPB, we've got other aspects in there. Howard, in terms of linking with path and cycle paths, obviously it has a food and drink offering, and it has hotels, got Kilbarkin, which again is a historic village. So all of these are starting to link together, and I think what we're trying to do is bring in that, again, the wider picture. And here we have kind of a look at Castle Semple, and on the understanding that actually Castle Semple services and Loch as a region services a different markets. So you've got outdoor activity users, you've got visitors, you've got people who come in for bike hire, for an RSPB, you've got people who are very interested in a particular kind of wildlife. You've also got walks and trails right throughout. Is rather than focus all development on that one small footprint, spread it out. In theory, spread it out, and that way you are not only encouraging visitors to kind of see more of the area, but you're also making sure that there aren't any kind of key pinch points in terms of visitation, whether that's car parking or whether it's challenges around capacity at certain venues, whatever else it happens to be. So it's about kind of working together. And the RSPB themselves also have a long-term plan in terms of what they'd like to do. So I think we are working together to make sure that kind of we're quite complementary. In terms of where we're going, looking at the key ideas here, we've got not only Castle Semple Country Park, we've got the Watersports aspect, we've got the Loch and the Nature Reserve, and we've got the potential for maybe a new visitor hub. Again, one of the suggestions is, if you keep one building specifically for activities, do you create a second somewhere else where you would have maybe a gateway centre or education facilities, and so on. And I would stress again that all of this is really very early, and the reason we're asking people this early is so we include people's views and feedback from a very early stage, rather than coming with a set plan and just asking if you like it or you don't. This is very much about getting views to shape where we're going. And I'll just skip through these because I know I've talked already for about 15 minutes. So we've got panels looking at the country park in terms of what it could be, how we want to make it more sustainable, how we want to make it more accessible, which parts of investment would you like to see come in first, for example. Similarly with the regional Watersports facility, it's extremely well thought of, and it really is extremely good at what it does. So if we're keeping that, how do we work out the balance between the needs and users of, from a water sports point of view, versus those who are much more casual. And indeed, you know, right down to aspects about at the moment, if you want to use the water as an individual, either you're booking yourself on a course through Castle Semple, you're a member of one of the clubs, but if you just are much more of a casual user, you can access to the loch yourself, but it very much is a case of you are responsible for yourself in terms of getting your craft into the water and safety, all of that. It's all of these conversations need to happen kind of in a much more planned way. Working with RSPB as well, you're looking at what their plans are. You may or may not be aware that relatively recently, certainly only within the last few months, they've changed their approach in terms of paying. So it used to be, as obviously they are a membership organization and a charity, you used to pay to access their trails if you went in by car. But now, to really push the active travel through public transport, what they've done is they've taken away the charge to access the routes. What you do is you pay for parking. And it's a small change, but it's quite a key one. So obviously, if you're walking from the village, you wouldn't have paid anyway, because you wouldn't, or you shouldn't have paid. But now they're actually just putting that in stone. So it's a different way of trying to engage a wider audience. I'm hoping you knew about it, because they did put out some press, but nevertheless, I'm quite keen that that becomes more widely known. Again, the potential for a new visitor hub, and then, you know, where we're looking at it strategically in terms of short-term, smaller projects that we might be able to get funded through funds that already exist, such as the Visit Scotland Fund. So one of the aspects that's come up a lot is the toilet block, for example. You know, it's not very exciting in the grand scheme of things, but it absolutely is a very practical aspect that needs revisited in terms of we need quality facilities for people who are using the park. You know, ideally we'd want some sort of changing area as well. So how should we do it? From the link that I'll send around, you can go on and look at, you know, this list of projects in terms of where you'd rate them in terms of a priority level. And there's an option to add other ones if you think there are some that are missed. And again, from the longer term or the medium to longer term, when we're looking at bigger projects, again, you know, we have the opportunity, you can add priorities, whether you think they are a priority or not. And again, an option to add your own thoughts. So that, and just, well, finally, and that's a QR code, which if you have your phone right now, it should work. But I'll send you the link so you don't need to worry about that. So hopefully that is just a canter through, and I've kept to time. So I'll stop sharing my screen and say thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll be sharing the presentation anyway, and the link will be there. And yes, like I said, we've got another 21 days to kind of gather those thoughts.
I've got a question there from Meg. Meg, if you.
Just a couple of things. You say it's the Clyde Muirshiel regeneration, but all the things you've been talking about at the moment have been to do with Castle Semple. Is there any going to be any works done out actually at the one that you have to take absolutely ages to drive to?
The Muirshiel Centre.
Yeah.
Yes, so they'll be in the plan. I think at the moment we're just it's a very broad picture at the moment. So the initial funding was quite specifically on Castle Semple. The longer term projects, yes, will include the Muirshiel Centre as well. And
the next question is, as long as you make it all dog friendly, I'm absolutely delighted, because, you know, we like coming out with the dog. That's all.
But that's it. You know, that's one of the key user groups, you know, people walking dogs. So absolutely everything should be, and it should be accessible to everyone, by which I mean, you know, obviously people who have mobility issues, whether they use wheels or not, you know, it's a pram or a wheelchair, that needs to be a key part of what we do as well.
Okay, Councillor Audrey / Andy Doig.
Hello, hi, hello, convener, hi. I think that was an excellent presentation, Andrew, and you know, I've spoken to you privately about this. A few weeks ago, I took Andrew and some of his colleagues, Colin Begg and Ewan Shearer from the Economy and Generation Department, took them down to see the collegiate church at Castle Semple. So we left Kilbarchan, met at Kilbarchan, went along to Castle Semple, and we went, it's a 20-minute walk to the collegiate church to show them some of the things that are there. And I hope they appreciated it. I think they did. I do think that it's really important that Renfrewshire develops some of these aspects that in the past have, I mean, as it stands, Clyde Muirshiel / Castle Semple is one of the top visitor attractions in Renfrewshire. So I think with more thought and more consideration, I think it could actually achieve much more and become a really major Scottish attraction in a national sense. So, and that would really benefit economically Renfrewshire and especially Loch, Howwood and Kilbarchan. So I'm delighted to see these plans. I'll finish off on this, convener. I think it's what's particularly enthusiastic about this is the fact that there's a lot of engagement with the local communities and local businesses, so that we get a kind of joined up approach to tourism as well. So I can commend Andrew and his team for that, and I wish them every success, and I'm happy to give them any support that I can. Thanks.
That's smashing. Thanks, Councillor Doig, and thanks, Andrew, for that presentation. That was very helpful. And if you could send the link out, I'd love to see more about it. That'd be great.
Yeah,
I'm
no
going.
problem at all. Thank you.
I'm going to move on. Item 3, so a you decide update. And I think we've got Gwyneth with us for that. Yeah.
Yep. Hi everyone. Thank you. I think most of you probably do know about You Decide already, but just in case anybody aren't aware of it, You Decide is the kind of council's mainstream participatory budgeting project where we set aside £1.2 million as a community investment fund over a 3-year period. So the first phase was really we'd gone out to ask communities to submit their ideas for infrastructure improvements in their local area. We had a fantastic response with over 2,800 ideas that were actually submitted. That gave us quite a big job of actually shortlisting all of these before going back out to the public and asking them to vote on the projects that they'd like to see in their area. And again, a really positive response to that as well, with 4,800 votes being cast. So I'll just run through the successful projects. I do have to leave at 6:30, so if there's anything that runs on, you can email me later on anyway and I'll get back to you. But for Brookfield and Bridge of Weir, the successful projects are to install a wheeled sports area in the Moss Road Park for sports including skateboards, scooters and skates for children and young people to enjoy, and install an activated speed sign at the entrance to Brookfield. We've got an Elderslie light up the Wallace Monument to make it more of a feature, install outdoor exercise equipment at Old Road Park, install speed activated signs on the main roads, and install seating at Main Road near the NCR 75 cycle path entry exit. Upgrade the path that runs alongside the river from Abbey Road to Wallace Avenue to tarmac, and upgrade the tarmac surface at Queen's Road Park. For Houston, we've got install a pedestrian crossing near the bus stop on Magnus Road and Piper Road, repair the steps to ensure accessible access to the helicopter park at South Mound for people with mobility issues, prams and bicycles. For Howwood, we've got install lighting in Howwood Park connecting Beath Road and Midtown Road, improve the playing surface at the Howwood Park playing field and tarmac the perimeter path around Howwood Park. For Kilbarchan, we've got install additional lighting in Kilbarchan Park from Well Road to Park View, create an activity trail around the village with information and interpretation boards, and engage with the local community to improve the appearance of the roundabout at the entrance to the village. For Loch we've got install lighting at Loch Park around the surrounding path network and lighting improvements from the car park at Loch Park at Loch Road towards the train station. Does anybody have any questions? No. The projects have commenced and they will be delivered throughout 2023, but we are just about finished the first one in Bishopton just now, so hopefully we'll be moving quite quickly with them. And if anybody does have any questions at a later date, you can email either myself or the team. Oh, sorry, Councillor Doig. Like, is that a new hand or yeah?
Yeah, just to say it wasn't a legacy hand, it was
Okay.
a new hand. Yeah, I think again, I think the You Decide project process I think has been extremely well done, extremely professional. I saw quite a few of the Christmas lights events in the villages where the You Decide people were there, and I think that was excellent. And I think it's tremendous to get local views about so many local aspects. I mean, just one example that I'm aware of personally, you know, the idea of more lightage between Loch and the train station is a really important thing. And I think it's good that doing the consultation in the way that you have will enable you to dig down to get that real community feel as to what communities really want.
Yeah.
Rather than just maybe a few opinion formers or things like that. So it's a great exercise in local democracy. So well done.
Right, thank you.
That's smashing. No, I just echo exactly what Councillor Doig was saying there. I thought it was an excellent initiative by Renfrewshire Council, and everybody seems to get really engaged with it. It was a cracking. And it'll be good to see all the stuff happening all over Renfrewshire when it happens. But apart from that, thanks Gwyneth for that update, and I'll let you go now because I know you need to go.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right,
See you later.
cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Okay, sorry. So item 4 then, Winter Connections. Got an update from Annabelle.
Thanks very much, Chair. I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk a bit about the way Winter Connections has developed across the kind of villages local partnership, if that's okay. And many of you will be familiar with this piece of work. It's a piece of work that was started around the autumn time, and you'll recall at the time there was a lot of coverage about, I guess, the ongoing cost of living crisis and particularly the energy crisis, and at the time a lot of calls for warm spaces or similar type projects to be set up. I guess in response to that, the council decided to establish this Winter Connections project, very cognizant of those challenges, but also about providing positive activity-based opportunities for people to connect with other people in their local community. Sometimes informally I call them so happen to be warm spaces, but it was very much about giving people the chance to do stuff and meet people and learn a new skill over that kind of winter period. And you'll recall I came to a previous local partnership when we were early on in the process and perhaps had just kind of launched our small grants programme. So just to say, it's very much now a thing. Most Winter Connections activities are running until the end of March, some of them a little bit further on after that. What we have in Renfrewshire now is a really, really broad programme of activities, and so varied in terms of the nature of things that are being offered, from older people to younger people to activities, crafts, everything you could possibly imagine under the sun. So if you haven't had an opportunity to look at the programme as it currently exists, I will pop a link in the chat and you can have a little look through that at your leisure. And just to say, it is still running for a while. And just on the villages, I think we had talked at the last local partnership about the importance of us keeping an eye on where we felt that there were gaps, and I think particularly from a village perspective, it's really important that people are able to engage with something as close to them as possible. So I know Councillor Innes, you asked me quite specifically not to do a presentation, but I wondered if I could just very quickly show a slide, just because it's a lot of information to take on. So I just wanted to just show you a list there basically of what's happening in the villages. So it's not perfect. There are always gaps in these things. Rays of Hope are running a really varied programme in Eldersley across a whole range of different activities. We managed to get something on in Houston with Renfrewshire Rainbow Buddies, a toddler crafts and book bug session. I will say Houston was one of our gaps. It was quite a difficult one to fill despite a lot of attempts, but we got something there in the end. Loads of uptake from Howard. I feel like I'm making this competitive now. It's not meant to be. Loads of uptake in Howard with a really wide range of activities, both in terms of the Howard Community Winter Gatherings, but also the activities at the Village Hall as well. So really good to see that. Leap doing a lot of different things in Loch, from crafternoons to knit and natter sessions in the library. And they've had quite a big programme in Loch, supplemented by quite a lot of extra funding, and musical and film nights in the Old Library Centre in Kilbarchan. And we also commissioned a range of Winter Connections activities across the One Red Library network, and they have been running in Bridge of Weir Library and Loch Library. But just to say, that's one of the things that we have done to try and fill some gaps. So in Bridge of Weir Library in particular, you'll notice there's not a lot of community-led activity there in terms of the rest of the activities. So we've done extra provision in some of those areas, and in Bridge of Weir Library, that was about putting on extra weekly play sessions. So I will drop that now, and we can all pretend that I definitely didn't show you any slides. So just to say, thank you for all of your uptake and your interest. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out your local Winter Connections activities, please do. And we'll be evaluating the programme over the kind of coming months, both in terms of the things that are happening, but also the programme as a whole. I'm happy to share some of that with you, but thanks for your ongoing engagement, and I hope you get an opportunity to go do some crochet somewhere near you. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Doig, yeah.
Hi, Annabelle, and thank you for getting something on in Houston, but there's still one village that doesn't have anything on it, and that's Brookfield. And I know that's a bit more difficult because the Brookfield village own their own hall, etc. But I'm wondering if you've made any approach to any the groups that run there to see if they can do anything for Winter Connections.
You're quite right, we don't have anything on in Brookfield, and I'm not sure off the top of my head what the level of engagement has been. We've tried to the best of our ability to be as proactive as possible in terms of getting activities on board, but I can have a conversation with the team about what conversations, if any, have happened in Brookfield. I'm sad we didn't manage to get a full house there. That would have been good. Houston was a struggle, but I could get that information back for you, Councillor Doig. But yes, no, I agree.
Thank you very much for that, Annabelle. And I know it's not particularly easy when it's not we don't have really a lot of our own halls in the area, but I would like to see us completing the box to make sure that every community has had some engagement and something going in their area. Okay, thank you.
That's good to hear that we'll make an effort for Brookfield. That would be smashing and get the full house going. Aye, so no other questions then on Winter Connections? No. So I'll move on then to item 5, and I think we've got Isabel here for an update, yeah?
Yes, hi there.
Yeah.
Isabel Sinclair from Community Learning and Development. Just a couple of updates for you. One's to tell you that the Green Spaces Fund is still available. I know that the villages have had quite a lot of money from that in the past to do up some play areas and green spaces, put in some benches and so on in some nice green areas, and it's been very successful, but there is still money left. So we would ask that you let any community groups know about it and encourage them to apply. So there has been a lot of funding so far done, £300,000 of external funding delivered into Renfrewshire, and there's also been support with 6 asset transfers. So asset transfers is another area that they can help community groups with if they're interested in that. Just to let you know a couple of other things that we've got going on in CLD at the moment. We're working quite closely with Engage Renfrewshire and the Health and Social Care Partnership to develop a database called alice.org. It's spelled ALISS.org, and I'll put the link into the chat. It's already in existence, the database, but we feel it's not been maybe utilised as best as it could be. So we're in the process of trying to ensure that all the community groups in Renfrewshire have got their details in it. But we would ask if you have a look at the website yourself and see if there's anything you might like us to help with, you can get in touch with us. I've put my email into the chat as well, and you can get back to us if there's any thing that you want us to do. It's things like community groups, health and mental health groups, long-term conditions, financial support, those kind of things. And it's for people to go in and find information on resources that may help them. So I'll put those links in the chat as well. We've also, youth services is part of our team as well, and they have a survey which is live at the moment, and they would like as many young people aged 8 to 25 to participate in the survey. It's about finding out what young people want in their local areas. It's too long for me to spell it out here online, but I'll put the link into the chat as well. So if you could share that with any young people that you know, or any groups that have that age group, it'd be great if they could all participate in that survey. So I'll put my details in the chat as well if anybody's got any questions, but I'm happy to take any questions just now if anybody's got any. Okay, I'll put everything in the chat then for you, and you can get back to us if there's anything else. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks. That was very helpful, Isabel. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move on to item 6. Community Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund. I think we've got Alice here for that. Yeah.
Yes. Hello. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Can you all hear me? Okay. Yes. Okay. Great. Yes. Thank you very much for having me along. I just wanted to do a very quick update on the fund and as it appears in your local partnership. As my colleague Alan shared in the last meeting this year, we had just over £500,000 to distribute across Renfrewshire, and we made all of the decisions just before Christmas and are now well underway with getting money out to community groups. So we received 90 applications, which was an increase from first year, which was great to see, and we've made 59 awards, which was also an increase. So we have more awards of a smaller amount, so we've been able to support more groups, which is fantastic. The big one for the villages area is we're able to support Loch Feel Good Festival again for a second year, so that will be going on in the summer. We're also supporting Open Eye, who are based in Loch but will actually be working with asylum seekers and refugees across Renfrewshire. So Open Eye is a participatory photography project, and they are engaging asylum seekers to introduce them and to get them just embracing the beautiful natural spaces of Renfrewshire. The other projects that aren't based in, well, the majority of other funded activity, although was not in the villages area, is open to all residents across Renfrewshire. So I'll leave a list in the chat box of anything that is open to everyone. Well, I'll leave a list of everything that's been funded, and you'll be able to see what is open to residents. Obviously, there will be travel implications, but we've tried to get a good spread across areas, so it might just be across the border. Isabel just mentioned there that we're working on Alice, and that is very true. All of our funded projects for this second year, if they aren't already on Alice, we will be adding to Alice, and we'll be sharing that they are open to adults. Just a reminder that this funding is for adults only, so that's 16 plus. The other exciting thing that we're doing is developing our network. So this last year we held a network which was really just for funded groups, but for this second year we have widened the membership, and we're inviting anyone who's working on community mental health as an agenda to come into the network. So that might be people who applied but didn't receive funding, or people who didn't know about the fund previously, or the people who maybe weren't looking at mental health pre pandemic, but have since recognised it as a need in the area. So that network is now made up of funded groups from both our fund and the HSCP's Culture, Arts, Health and Social Care Fund, which is looking at increasing accessibility for people to get into creative activities. And also, well, the key new members are social prescribers. So we were really, really keen to try and get as much knowledge out to the social prescribers, the community link workers who are in every GP office, just so that, you know, as much as we're funding everything that's going on, the only way it's really going to impact people is if they know that it's happening. So we're trying to get the messaging out there as widely as possible. We had one network meeting just in February there, which was really well attended from all sides of those membership. And we'll have another one in April, but we will also have a monthly newsletter going out. So if anybody would like to receive that newsletter, if anyone would like to be signed up to it, I can very happy to add you into it. The other thing that will be coming up probably before the next time I can come and update you all is that we're going to be having an event during Loneliness Awareness Week, which is in June. We're still deciding what this will look like, but we're thinking of just essentially a showcase of what's happening. So again, just trying to encourage as many people along to these activities that have been funded, and just sharing the knowledge that these are groups that are working across Renfrewshire. I will put all of that in the chat box, and I'll put my email address as well if anyone wants to contact me directly about anything. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Alice. Before I move on to item 7, I just say all the presentations and reports we have tonight, it's just showing all the great work we're doing in the villages around the place, and people having access to these things that I skipped over Winter Connections there. Winter Connections has been absolutely excellent, and I think it's great to see it grow in the villages as well. I'm a very big believer in poverty doesn't have a postcode, and we do have a lot of affluent villages in this local partnership, so it's good to see that we're still doing that out this way. Sorry, I just wanted to say that before I moved on. But item 7, has everybody had a chance to read that? Can we agree that? Yep.
Agreed.
Annabelle, yeah.
Hi, apologies. I know that I know you're trying to get away, but I just wanted to say, because some of that funding was returned, there is currently an unspent balance for the local partnership. So what I wanted to say was, I know we did it during COVID, but we're not necessarily able to carry funding over to the next financial year. And I'm very aware that it's March now. So just to say, in order to hold on to that funding, the local partnership could commit it to a thing, not necessarily an application or a group, but a particular thing that the local partnership would want to use on, and then you would be able to spend it in 23-24. So I just wondered whether there was anything in particular that the local partnership were interested in committing that unspent balance to, and then we can process that with the other applications as that process launches, and then you would be able to deal with that at your funding meeting in June. So just to remind you, because I hate to see lost potential funding for community projects.
Councillor Doig.
I would like to suggest that we put that into this year's Future Winter Connections programme, because we're getting more of the winter connections basically happening, and I'd like to see a bit more money, or the money that we have left over, committed to that, and that way we could carry it over if that's acceptable.
Yeah, I don't see anybody objecting.
No, I agree with that, Audrey.
Okie doke, right, well, that's that sorted then. No bother. Alright, so the last thing I wanted to say, item 8, date of next meeting. Obviously other local partnerships have been going back to being in person. but I feel the villages local partnership is the logistics say it. Sometimes this is actually, I feel, a better way of getting us all together than perhaps going to Howard and then Houston and then you know. So I don't know if it's a better idea as staying online the now, and we can maybe revisit that in the future, unless anybody's got any objections to that. Don't see any. Smashing. Okay. Well, date of the next meeting is 25th of May 2023. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'll see you all later.
Right, thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Robert.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks
you.
very
Thank you,
much.
bye.
See you later.
Bye.